Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Irene Ryan made everyone laugh a lot. America as the tough, uncompromising, the Beverly Hillbillies grandmother. However, her narrative in real life was way distinct from the role she performed throughout their career, which included vaudeville on Broadway, TV, and radio. Ryan was so not just grandma, but much more. She was an amazing entertainer with a wealth of context. However, what transpired following the finish the show? Following her marriage and despite certain financial achievements, Ryan had some difficult situations connected to a home that turned into a kind of ghost in her life. As she was about to launch into an remarkable new stage in her career, tragedy struck. Let's examine this more closely. The intriguing and little-known tale of Irene Ryan, how she became well-known, her final moments, and the legacy she left behind. Originally named Irene Ryan, Irene Noble in El Paso on October 17, 1902, Texas, entered the entertainment industry when she was quite young. When she was only 11, she took the Valencia Theater's stage in San Francisco, won a contest for Amateurs 3 for the song Pretty Baby. It was clear right away that Irene was intended for attention, but she refused to truly launch her career until a little later. She was quite eager when she became 14 years old. In order to enter the field, she obtained a contract with a stock business in California by misrepresenting her age because she was technically too young to be employed by state laws. Pertaining to child labor, the school didn't truly get her attention. All she did was spent 2 years of secondary school there, prior to choosing to plunge directly into performing. Over the following 4 years, she practiced her stock theater abilities, then decided to establish herself in the entertainment industry. Irene actually located her groove in variety and musical comedy shows, touring California to execute. She got to know Tim throughout that period. Another vaudeville act was Ryan. They swiftly bonded as a group on stage and off, getting married in 1922. Their collaboration continued for 20 years, not only as wife and husband, but also ace-expert partners, which aided both of them achieve remarkable achievement in amusement. Following the establishment, Tim, Irene, and themselves in vaudeville Ryan switched to the radio, and Tim and Irene made their own show. The two gained notoriety for their humorous, stupid Dora skit with a cute but disorganized woman who rapidly captivated audiences across the country. Their increasing notoriety resulted in appearances on well-known programs from that time period, like the Bob and the Rudy Valley Show Hope Show. As Irene's ability to be funny thrived on radio, she started producing advances in films. Alongside Tim, she performed in a number of short comedies, appearing in a total of 11 films. A few among their important creations were The Crazy Family, Will, 1936, Hamlet and Eggs, 1937, You Give Up, 1937. Their mutual chemistry on their lives were reflected on the screen. Collaboration. But in spite of their professional accomplishments, in the end, the marriage ended in 1943. That being said, their split did not completely stop working together. They continued to collaborate on films initiatives even after splitting apart. During the height of World War II, comic Bob Hope focused on providing entertainment, American soldiers abroad. Having already worked beside him on the Bob Hope Irene, was willing to lend her a hand, assistance. She accompanied Hope on her USO travels, traveling the world to perform for soldiers, go to hospitals for veterans, and make people who are in need happy. Her commitment went beyond the conflict as she kept encouraging people throughout the Berlin airlift in 1948 via her performances. Bob Hope, who acknowledged the importance of humor in difficult times, once mentioned the significance of their mission. Trust me, when I say it, the front row laughs. Lines are really valuable. Valuable to the great men who are contributing and taking the terrible business that is conducted there. There's a bulge the size of in your throat of Grant's tomb. When they approach you, shake your hand, and thank you, mumble. Consider those men, saying, "Thank you." Observe the work they are doing for you and for me, for Irene, bringing happiness. The soldiers, it was not just one more show. It served as a way to provide return and make use of her skills for something important. During the Irene, Ryan was busy establishing herself in the 1950s for herself, getting parts in a number of TV displays. However, nothing could surpass the large break that she was about to receive in the 1960s. The Beverly Hillbillies time when Ryan had her sights set on the project, part of the feisty Granny Daisy Moses, sane grandmother who rose to become the Clampett family's center. Despite her extensive background, she nearly lost out on the position. The program's Paul Henning, the creator, relied on his using a casting agent to locate the ideal grandmother, and they didn't even consider Ryan. The agent did not believe she was the correct match, which wasn't particularly pleasant with Irene. In order to avoid being overlooked, Ryan made the decision to act. She dialed, approached Paul Henning, and made a daring offer for herself. "Paul, look, do I have to persuade? Bring my gray wig and scarf?" "You." The L reported that she retaliated. "Paso times. If you choose an older person she won't be able to keep up with those 7 to 7 hours. Her passion and her confidence allowed her to try again, but later Henning revealed an additional twist on the narrative. In a conversation with MeTV Mythology, remembering that Ryan had recently visited his workplace one day and inquired bluntly if she believed Sheeble to do a hillbilly. Not missing, she launched into a tale that made. She was obviously the right person for the position. "Are you serious?" she said. "I was in Astock firm, and we participated in A Arkansas Theater. We were backstage, awaiting the raising of the curtain, and we questioned the management about why it didn't. He hadn't opened it to the public. He said if he did, they would remove the seats. So, yes, I am aware of hillbillies." Henning only needed that to be persuaded. Irene Ryan possessed not just the encounter, but also the ideal humor and spirit to bring Granny Moses' Toto existence. Henning recalled that when its screen tests were due, Ryan's it was evident from the audition who should win. Granny's role. B. Benidorm Wost there to attempt to get a job as grandmother, Henning clarified. Additionally, as soon as B arrived as Irene Ryan recited her lines, and he remarked, "That's Granny," to me. She was simply incredible. Having said that, Irene Ryan obtained the position that would turn into her career's high point, Granny Daisy, the Beverly Hillbillies with Moses. The beginning. In 1962, the show swiftly became popular in the culture. It went after Jed. Buddy Epson plays the role of Clampett, a straightforward A-man who unexpectedly became wealthy after discovering oil on his property. Rather than enjoying life in his homeland setting, he made the decision to relocate his family. 2. The city of Beverly Hills, resulting in their amusing conflict between the country of origin and life and elevated society. In addition to Epson, the ensemble highlighted Max Baer Jr. as the silly but lovable Donna Douglas as Jethro Bodine, Ellie Mae Clampett, the charming Irene Ryan as Granny, of course, the strong, independent matriarch who maintained everyone, waiting in queue. The audience was enamored with the show immediately. In just 3 shortly following its debut, the Hillbillies soared to the top, setting new records for the quickest ascent to the highest in the history of television. As stated by, it even outperformed Bob Hope's on IMDb.renowned program. In terms of viewership, anything that no other application was able to accomplish back then. However, behind the scenes, the creators withheld certain information from the public to preserve the mystique of the show. Years later, the Beverly Hillbillies remains a popular classic, with replays still airing for fresh viewers to have fun. Despite landing the part, Ryan avoided being overly at ease. Even though the Beverly Hillbillies are turning into among the most popular shows on television, she was constantly concerned that she might be fired at any time. In a 1965 Star Gazette interview, "I'm always the first one," she said, on location for each sequence. "Throughout my entire existence, I've arrived on time. I've consistently been, I'm afraid of losing my job, and to be quite honest, I continue to have that feeling." That fear wasn't without foundation. Ryan had devoted her whole pursuing a career, appearing in vaudeville, radio adaptation, and entering the TV and movie industries whenever an opportunity presented itself. The show business was erratic, and she had discovered early on which she was unable to obtain stability taken for granted. Even when she was at her tallest fame, she remained adroit and prepared for anything, understanding that everything could alter in a single instant. Irene, when Ryan initially took on the role, she was 59, Granny's part in the Beverly Hillbillies. Among the most astounding elements of her portrayal of Granny, how much older was Daisy? Moses appeared younger on screen than she actually was, when the show's debut Ryan was just 59 in 1962. Far from the old matriarch she persuaded represented. Granny, who frequently reflected regarding the Civil War and the incidents that intended to be in her 19th century 1980s. Considering that she belonged to Jed Clampett maternal figure, and that Jed was Granny was not quite young, but she was aptly described as a tough old lady throughout her older years. Even at the conclusion of, in 1971, Ryan was still subject to decades younger than Granny's age of 70 age inferred. To close this age disparity, the show's makeup crew had to make some significant changes. Every day while they were filming, Ryan had a makeover using a lot of makeup to the way she looks. The group used a combination of contouring, shadows, and wrinkles techniques for adding depth and exaggeration. Her lines, giving her a more older than she was in reality. Her famous gray hairpiece, as well as her dowdy vintage apparel, further improved the deception. The methods of aging that are employed. The Beverly Hillbillies were very proving that viewers at the time didn't understand. Ryan wasn't a genuine old woman. The techniques applied on. She became a television standard and cinematic makeup, impacting the methods observed in programs such as The Golden Girls. On the 1960s lower-resolution televisions and the 1970s, the change was smooth. Only with the high-definition technology development years later, some of the cosmetics tricks became increasingly obvious. Ryan's performance, however, was such it's plausible that viewers still. She is rarely questioned about her age. Irene portrayed Granny for the entire 274 Beverly Hillbillies episodes. The series ended in 1971 following 9 prosperous seasons in which it received numerous honors and nominations. And Irene was one of them. Acknowledgement. She was awarded an Emmy, 1963 and 1964 nominations for exceptional ongoing performance by an star of a television show. Ryan was excited to play the role of Granny for as long as you can. If Irene had one word missing, it would be. It was retirement in Ryan's vocabulary. She wasn't going to back down from performing. She wanted to maintain assuming the part forever. In a conversation with she made her way to the Sydney Morning Herald. Extremely clear intentions. "Get a job?" "Sweetheart, I wish to pass away while wearing my boots," she said. For Ryan, giving up was just not an option, a choice. Her triumph on the Beverly all she had were hillbillies. Imagined. However, she found that fans only when she spoke did I recognize her. "My voice always lets me know," she said, outlined. "I am able to stroll down the street and remain invisible till I speak. Next, everybody turns, approximately." During the interview, Ryan had a unique reason for being in Sydney, participation in the South Sydney Junior Leagues Club. She kept the specifics private. Of her covert conduct, she did make a suggestion that several of Granny's recognizable objects were hidden in her suitcase. Viewers were captivated by the persona in a live performance, Individuals aided Granny's performance on stage. "I did her." In Las Vegas, where she fell like a bomb, she revealed, pointing out the character's enormous appeal. In spite of Ryan's strong bond with Granny, she was very different from the she is a strong, no-nonsense matriarch of love performed off-screen. She was friendly, caring, and has a career spanning more than 5 decades, appearing in almost every nook and cranny of the entertainment sector. She just had a single kind of show. Never finished. I will not disclose my age. However, I have performed in many kinds of shows for more than 50 years, with the exception of burlesque. She said, "I was never the sort," admitted, laughing. However, regardless, she wasn't going to slow down. What? You wish to continue acting as Granny until I fall. In my opinion, when people say they simply lay down and die when they retire. Ryan achieved success on Broadway following the Beverly Hillbillies. Following the performance concluded, Irene Ryan left the area in Hollywood for a while. Instead of continuing with television or films, she went back to live with her first love, theater. Considering her enthusiasm for the stage, the El Paso Times reported, "There is nothing that can ever replace the live performance for a performer. However, television will always be around, and it's regarding the best media for entertainment we've ever encountered." Ryan adopted a new difficulty in the Broadway industry, obtaining the part of the fiery Berta grandmother in Pippin, a musical by Bob Efsai. She enthralled even in her 70s, receiving a Tony Award for Audiences, 1973 nomination for Best Featured Performer in a Musical. This occurred in addition to the 2 Emmys she received for her portrayal of Granny on Beverly in 1963. Hillbillies, and 1964. The way she performed No Time at All quickly became popular, giving the house down every night. The latest, The York Times, commended her stealing skills. Writing in the program, in Pippin, as those as viewers of the show are aware, she appeared on stage for just 10 or so minutes, and abruptly ended the show. John Rubinstein was left on stage following her departure, unable to say his subsequent sentence till the cheering subsided. Ryan is only 52 years old. Despite her diminutive size, she'd endless vitality and frequently stayed long after her. Backstage with the crew, the show was over. Despite being 70, she stayed up with Broadway's rapid pace, managing the mayhem behind the scenes like someone half her age. In terms of money, Ryan had ensured a fulfilling existence for herself as a result of years of intelligent investments as well as prudent saving. She had a $1 million net worth at the time of her death on April 26, 1973. She kept acting out of character, passing away, having a stroke when taking the stage. They flew her, returning to Los Angeles, where she subsequently died. Her stated reasons for glioblastoma was reported as the cause of death and heart arteriosclerotic illness. Irene, perhaps more than anything else, Ryan enjoyed acting. Anything else. She continued to be committed to her trade to the end of her life, possessing the same perseverance and resolve that put Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies are an enduring personality. Irene Ryan departed, her whole fortune to pupils. Ryan wasn't only committed to her work. She was also devoted to giving back. The Irene Ryan was founded by her foundation that aims to assist young actors who want to be actors. As she claims, because of her generosity, she made sure that even following her death, her wealth would keep assisting others. As stated by Ryan quit the Atlantic City Press, her whole fortune of over $1 million to a student fund grants, not having any close relatives. In order to depart, Ryan told her from the whole estate to the foundation, establishing theater scholarships pupils, a tradition that endures, encourage the next generation of entertainers. In her last moments, Ryan was Pippin's Broadway performance, making her role debut at the age of 70 of Berta, a noble yet vivacious medieval grandma. Because of her performance, Shea nomination for a Tony Award, evidence of her timeless ability. However, during when she performed on March 10, 1973, she fell to the ground on stage and was taken to St. Los Angeles Hospital, Johns. In April, she had a stroke on the 26th and died. Away. Her co-star from Beverly Hillbillies, she was been called a delight by Buddy Epson to work with, which many people feel who was acquainted with her. On TV, the other on stage or with her behind-the-scenes foundation, Ryan served as a beacon, one that shines for decades on end following her death. Her legacy endures through the amusement she offered audiences as well as the chances she designed for aspiring actors. She might have being regarded by many as Hollywood's grandmother, but she was so much more. She was a motivation. Inside the deserted house of Irene Ryan, Granny's legacy Moses. A legacy was left by Irene Ryan of giggling, sardonic humor and performances that will never be forgotten, but one a lesser-known aspect of her past is the house she used to own was abandoned. Their silence, which has since descended into deterioration, serves as a silent reminder of the life outside of Hollywood of the actress. But Ryan's interpretation of Granny Clampett made her well known, her actual life. The tale of residence was different. In contrast to the opulent home in Beverly Hills that may be seen on television, her real house was considerably more humble. As time went by, the property has been abandoned to the weather, with nature gradually taking it back. Accounts of urban exploration and report simply that the house is still mostly unaltered with furnishings, private possessions, and even a few artifacts from her career was dispersed within. Some claim framed pictures, vintage newspaper cuttings, and souvenirs continue to line the dusty shelves, providing a window into the "she didn't live" for the cameras. Ryan, hootied in 1973, left a fortune in which she committed to assisting aspiring actors through the foundation of Irene Ryan. However, her once vibrant mansion now sits as an obscure artifact from Hollywood's golden age. In spite of its present condition, Beverly Hillbillies fans are still cling to Ryan's recollection, recalling not only for Granny's amusing antics, but for her generosity in real life and commitment to the art. As She Home could be deserted, but her legacy is still as powerful as ever. If you loved this in-depth exploration of the lives of Irene Ryan, Daisy, and Granny Moses, make sure you switch on, like, and subscribe on alerts for further content such as this. Watch this space for more.